Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, it's time to have a look at Aegislash. And actually, we're going to have a look at Klefki as well, but we're going to start off looking at Aegislash. And there is a bit of a theme going on here. And the theme is, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, ha 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 ha, you can't KO me in your stupid face. So, Aegislash then. It has been revealed on the official Japanese website. It has been translated by the lovely David Hochmann. And it's got 140 HP, which for a Stage 2 is admittedly a little bit low. This is lower than we would ideally like. Stage 2s we expect kind of 160 up there with Empoleon. And given that it's literally got a shield form, I'm sorry, I would expect slightly more than this, but there's not much we can do about it, so there's only so much crying I can get away with. It's got a retreat cost of 3, which is high, a weakness of fire, which is fine, because it's only stuff like Blacephalon and Ho-Oh, and hate to break it to you, right? They're going to get one-hit KOs anyway. And I do like the resistance to Psychic, because stuff like Garbodor will take an awfully long time to get anywhere near KOing you. And being a metal Pokemon is really nice. You're hitting a great weakness against stuff like Sylveon, which just won the biggest regional we've ever had in Europe, and Alolan Ninetales, which really turned up at a 1,300 person tournament in Japan. That's redonk. I mean, that's twice the size of this biggest regional ever in Europe. It's ridiculous. So both those two Pokemon are confirmed as redonk. And you're hitting weakness, and before we even really get into it, you can see you're hitting 100, you can see these Pokemon have 200 HP, you can do the maths on that one. Or math if you're American. Okay, I should also mention we've got some defensive tools. We've got Metal Frying Pan, which reduces damage done by 30 and takes away your weakness if you're worried, and Metal Goggles, which also reduces damage done by 30, but that stops your opponent placing damage counters with attacks or abilities. Okay, that's going to be pretty relevant, because the ability here, any damage done to this Pokemon by attacks is reduced by 40 after applying weakness and resistance. That is really nice, to be perfectly honest with you. It means the Garbodor comes along with their 8 items and they go, ha 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 ha, I'm hitting 160 with resistance, goes down to 140, I've got a KO, and then you're like, oh no, it actually goes down to 100. It means that a Garbodor needs 10 items in the discard to do 200 damage if they're actually going to get a KO here. That is a lot for a single prize Pokemon. It means something like a Zoroark just isn't getting close. Zoroark comes along and Zoroark goes, oh man, I want to hit for 120, but you've got 140. Grr, and then they go, oh wait, I'm playing Professor Kukui, I can use that to do an extra 20 damage and get a KO. And then Aegislash is like, no you're not, mate, because actually you've got to do an extra 60 damage. You got to hit 180. It basically makes it a Stage 1 Pokemon with 180 HP, which is a little bit dumb. And then, of course, we can add in Metal Frying Pan or Metal Goggles. Now, I did go through this in the Metal Goggle videos. I'll pop a link in the description. Do please check that one out. But essentially, you've got to decide which you're more worried about. If you're worried about being hit for weakness, you play Metal Frying Pan. If you're worried about stuff like Decidueye dropping damage counters, then you go for Metal Goggles. Yes, either of them can be removed with a Field Blower, and if they are, they are. These things happen. Your opponent is almost certainly going to be playing Field Blower. If they play Field Blower, well, they play Field Blower. And there's not really very much you can do about that. But if they don't hit the Field Blower on the exact right turn, you got 210 HP. That's Zoroark level of HP. And fine, you're on a Stage 2, and 140 generally is a little bit low, but it's not really 140. With a Metal Frying Pan or Metal Goggles attached, it's 210, which is kind of like over the top bulky. I like this, and certainly we saw at the weekend, we saw a little bit of Steelix being played just as a blocking deck. Now, this isn't quite as good as Steelix as a blocker. I mean, first of all, Steelix is a Stage 1 and this is a Stage 2. which is a slight problem. And even with your ability, Steelix has 190, you effectively have 180, but you've got a better attack. I think, anyway, a better attack. And you've got Doublade, more on that in a moment, so there is certainly an argument to play that. I like this ability, it makes it bulky. As for the attack, metal, double colourless, 100 damage, not affected by any effects on your opponent's active Pokemon. You can use double colourless energy, that is good. And for metal Pokemon, we've got nice ways of accelerating energy like Magnezone, although you're then playing 2 Stage 2s in the same deck, which is dodgy, or Solgaleo Prism Star, but I still think it's a little bit expensive as a standard attack. The one thing I will say is that it goes through effects on the defending Pokemon. So things that would usually have immunity, think about a Dawn Wings Necrozma, after using their GX attack where they should have immunity the following turn, you get to go right through them. Think of something like a Glaceon EX in Expanded, which after using Crystal Ray would generally have immunity from evolutions, like this, and that's fine, you're going right through that and you're able to smash. That is good, ladies and gentlemen. But overall, I fear it might be a little bit too expensive. I don't think it's a bad attack by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think it's a little bit too expensive, and this is such a bulky Pokemon with so much potential that I really would wish it would have a better attack. Although, like I've said, you're doing enough damage with weakness to KO Sylveon and Alolan Ninetales. Now at this point I want to mention Klefki, a Pokemon which isn't getting its own video, but I do want to mention in here. It's got 60 HP, which is actually really good because it means it can be searched out with Professor Elm's lecture. Lets you get 3 Pokemon with 60 HP or less and pop them in your hand. And it's got a retreat cost of 1, which is quite low, which is good because it's a bench sitter. And it's got an attack that does 30 damage for a metal and a colourless. And yes, I suppose you can use counter energy here. And yes, I suppose it gets a one-hit KO on a Ralts, but let's be super clear about this. It's not a good attack. It's not an exciting attack. Don't get excited by it. It's bad. But what isn't bad about Klefki is the ability, which is shockingly specific. Each of your metal Pokemon's resistance is now minus 40. Now, metal Pokemon have a standard resistance of 20 to attacks from psychic Pokemon, so you reduce damage done by attacks of psychic Pokemon by 20 damage. This means that you're actually reducing it by 40 damage. It's alright, but it's taking up a bench space and I don't know if it's worth it. The best thing here really in terms of this is Garbodor. Garbodor does 20 damage for each item in your discard pile, so a Klefki on the bench basically says, hey Garbodor, you've got to have one more item in the discard to KO my active metal Pokemon. Which in a way is nice, but then Garbodor can always Guzma and KO Klefki if you're really struggling for a KO. And I just don't know if playing a Klefki on the bench is worth it when all you're doing is making Garbodor need one more item for a KO. Now, if you're playing something like Cobalion GX, and there is a psychic Pokemon which is doing just enough damage to KO you with resistance, and playing this would save a KO, i.e. it would shore up a bad matchup, yes. But I think Klefki is one of these Pokemon you play if there is a specific matchup where reducing damage done by a psychic Pokemon by 20 is really worth it and will swing the matchup in your favour. If that's the case, brilliant, play it. If that's not the case, not brilliant, don't play it. There we go. I should also remind you that Doublade is in play here. Double colourless energy. And it does 30 damage for each tool on both sides of the field that I like a lot. And don't forget Shining Celebi is a thing which lets you use the attacks of your previous evolutions. So there is definitely an argument here to just use Aegislash with Shining Celebi to use Doublade. So that you're essentially having huge bulk because you've got 50 more HP. Plus, you've got the ability that reduces damage by 40. I like this quite a lot. that is something you can do. I'm going to be giving Aegislash free Wassies. I think it's cool. I think it's fun. But I don't know if the attack is good enough. I think its best use might be just adding bulk to Doublade. But even then, you've got to add in the Aegislash to your deck and the Shining Celebi, which is a bit awkward. I'm going to be giving Klefki between 2 and 3 Wassies. Do please remember, we don't give half Wassies. That would be barbaric. Because honestly, I just don't think it works out in your favour, though, like I've said. If you can ever look at it and go, this one particular psychic Pokemon is just getting a KO, 20 less damage would swing the matchup in my favour, then I'm all in favour of Klefki. But the fact that it only works for metal Pokemon, nah. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. But if you think I misspoke, if you think there are better uses for Aegislash, please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, but please do remember the rule to be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all of that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. And check out youtube.com/WassyPlays Transformers. My name's Ross. Thank you very much for watching. You've been watching PTCG Radio.